Are you ready?
Very much.
Let's start, because this is just a model, an informal conversation with Ron, Kersic, and myself, Peet Sneekes. And we're talking about the interstitium of pretty much everything, but we kind of focus, because of our expertises, we focus on design, innovation, technology, a little bit of philosophy, human behavior, stuff like that. And we try to get our fingers behind the little sticker and just pull the sticker off and see what we find out. This is a Value for Value podcast, which is very interesting, Ron. You might not know this, but Franklin did it again, and he gave us a little bit of value. And I asked him if he wanted to say something to us, because if he did, he unfortunately didn't. But if he did, we would just get like a little message from Franklin to you, the audience.
It's when he does.
It's when he does. Yes, Franklin. So this is Value for Value. Go to the website, itsjustamodel.com. You find a little button called Value for Value, and it talks about how the value that you experience from this podcast, this conversation, how you can translate it to a value for us. So we can pay the bills, get better hairdos, I don't know. So, Ron.
Yes.
Do you have a first topic, or would you like me to kick off?
Oh, no, I'm going to insist that because I need to get this out of my system. It's because...
Let's stick in. No, let's get into it.
Yeah, because it's been a while. Through the magic of digital editing, this episode will come across as just neatly in the sequence.
Yeah,
but
we seem very regular.
But we had a bit of a gap in between. And that's in part because I had a holiday last week. And of course, on holiday, I always promise myself I'm just going to lie on my back in the garden and watch the clouds come by, which I did partially. Mm-hmm. But of course, there's always...
After 5 minutes.
but there's always... So I'm going to be a bit philosophical for the next 5 minutes or so.
Sure.
This is that kind of podcast. And so I have this irrational belief, obnoxiously irrational belief, right? That I don't
like it already.
I don't have any ideas in my head, right? It's just this little soup that's brewing, and sometimes you have this bubble popping up, and you think, "Oh, that's an idea," but it's a fart at best, right?
Sure.
And ideas always exist in between people. I just want to believe that.
That's a nice sentiment, I think. Yeah,
I think that's the and the reason why I want to do this podcast, and the reason I was actually anxious to get here in my busy schedule today, Peet, is that it's a great idea machine, right?
Yeah.
We get to talk, and something shapes in between us, right? Right here, and that's why I actually listen to our podcast, and I know you do too.
I have to.
But not only because we have to for the show notes, but I actually listen it more than once.
Yes, I think we're tempted to listen to that little bit that we wanted to hear, and basically find out that we hear the entire podcast after all.
That's it. And I'm not listening to myself. I'm not listening even to you, Peet. Mm-hmm. I'm listening to two people who are oddly familiar.
Yeah.
And they have this chisel in their hand, and there is this big slab of marble, right? And they're just chiseling away.
Oh yeah.
And they don't really, and suddenly there is a crack in the marble, and they chisel around it. And of course, I'm actually liking us to Michelangelo and to David. I know.
Yeah.
And but it's fascinating to actually see what we're chiseling at and what actually builds up in between us.
Yeah.
And it's all these things I never thought before. And especially the last 2 or 3 episodes, I think we got in the stride from episode 4. Mm-hmm. And there is this narrative building up. And is this and you articulated that really well, about that automation should serve people or humanity. And it doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And I have a little rant on how we are getting AI wrong. And of course, one of the reasons why I'm actually busy today, because I will be doing a presentation on how we all got AI wrong. And so if you see the narrative nowadays in media, capital M, but also me, small m, about tech. Just the word itself, right? Tech.
Yeah.
And we have tech bros. And then you see they actually mean Peter Thiel or Mark Andreessen or even Mark Zuckerberg.
Are they regarded as tech bros?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Those are not bros.
No.
I mean, those are child chess prodigies, but those are not bros. But okay, right? It's
sure.
but it's tech bros, and it's the and is this, I don't know, almost this train of thought that tech and tech companies, big tech, right? And big is evil, obviously. That they're inherently evil, and that's cannot be correct.
Seems to be a little bit short-sighted.
That's a bit short-sighted. So I thought, but what is it then, right? I mean, so what is it? Because one of the things I actually learned about myself, because I actually said it in the podcast for the first time, that I myself, feel very unease with tech nowadays.
Oh.
Right? And I used to be a techie. Or a nerd.
What do you mean? Like the activity of interacting with technology, or
no? I mean,
or being part of a community that strengthens or
what it does to society, how it does it, and to whom it does it.
And you being part of it,
and me
perhaps.
For quite a long time identifying as being part of that one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was a card-carrying cheerleader for the whole World Wide Web thing, and the mobile thing, And increasingly, I actually want to say I'm not part of that thing.
No,
and that's rather odd. I mean, literally yesterday I got a mail. I invited somebody for a talk, and that person said, "Oh, it's going to be Ron, so it's going to be highly technical. I'm going to invite somebody else." And I thought, okay, I'm still being perceived as
you have a stigma.
Yeah, that's literally the word I used. Okay, so maybe that's a good thing. So, and I had to think during my holiday about clippers, the sailing ships.
Oh, I know nothing about clippers.
Me hardly, but I had I had a whole week off, so I got to read about clippers. And I mean, beautiful ships, right? Long, some of them really wide, so they looked really classical. And
they're the big ones, right?
Yeah, very big.
Yeah,
they were cargo ships, but beautiful cargo ships, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 3 masts, 4 masts. In the end, they had 7 masts.
Holy shit!
With a gazillion number of sails, right? Just to eke the smallest gust of wind into forward motion. Just beautiful.
Now it sounds romantic.
But it is. I mean, if you see the cutty shark just cutting through the seas, right? And just transporting tea from India to England. Just wonderful. And at the same time, you also had other ships, a bit more bulky, with a steam engine in there.
Oh yeah,
and they were slowish in terms of top speed, but of course much faster in the aggregate speed.
Yeah,
spewing out dark, smelly smoke, lots of coal, and because coal is dirty, so the ships couldn't be painted white. You actually had to paint them black, so you couldn't see the black stains of the coal or something. And it's so almost the opposite, right? The elegance of the cutty shark and this top. This bathtop with an engine in it, right? And pedals at the side, and it's just horrible. And then, of course, the Suez Canal happened, and clippers are really bad to maneuver in a canal. And a steamship is of course, and well, 10 years on, clippers are gone, and steam is the dominant thing, right? The same thing you see with airplanes. Post World War II, the passenger airplanes, the Lockheed Constellation, that's an artwork.
Yeah,
beautiful plane, sleek and lovely engines. What was it again? 24 cylinders, 3 turbos that are connected to the crankshaft. I mean, the beautiful complexity.
Is that kind of harkening back to what we talked about last time, where beauty is our business?
Yes, that's
the quote of your tutor.
Yeah, Edgar Dijkstra. Yeah, that's it. Because I also went back to the whole geocentric, heliocentric models, right?
Yeah.
And what you could also see, to actually keep explaining new observations, the model kept got more complicated and complicated and complicated over time, right? So there were circles in circles. And even then you couldn't explain everything, right? Because if you actually watch Mercury from Earth at the sky, it goes from west to east, and then it reverts back again. So it's like this, right? And how do you explain this? Well, you need to have epicycles, but you need to have epicycles with an eccentric center. So it's called retrograde. That's still a complication in watchmaking, by the way. So they actually had a word for that, right? You had protograde is from west to east, and retrograde is from east to west.
Okay.
And the model just kept more complicated and complicated and complicated, right?
Yeah.
To the point that it's too convoluted. It's ugly.
Yeah.
And that's what got Copernicus into using circles. What I didn't know, but thanks to my holiday I did, is because he shouldn't have used circles but ellipses.
Oh, okay.
And if you stuck to circles, there are still deviations you can't explain. So he also had epicycles, so circles in circles.
Oh.
And it wasn't really that less complicated than the previous model. But then Kepler came along and turned it into ellipses, and then it became much more simple.
Yeah.
And long-winded story. I know.
No.
But I have a
fine.
feeling, and this is what tech is right now. It's in the Clipper phase, right? It's so beautifully optimized. I mean, take the ad ecosystem. Yes, we all hate ads, and it's horrible. But if you see how it works, and all these little parts working together, and these real-time ad auctions, I mean, that is a triumph of engineering.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to admire its beauty somehow.
Yeah, indeed.
But at the same time, we're eking out the last gust of wind, right? We're eking out the last drop of attention. And if we continue on this path, it will get more obnoxiously and just jarring, right? It's too much,
Yeah.
right? Like these. There were some aircraft engines, piston engines, that every flight you needed to change the spark plugs, which actually amounted to 356 spark plugs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a bit of a nightmare, right? So it's too convoluted. It's too optimized. You eat out the paradigm, and there is something next, right? And the jet engine was next. The steam engine was next.
Yeah.
So what's next for us? What's our equivalent of the Suez Canal? Because I didn't know that the Suez Canal actually helped the demise of the Clipper.
I didn't know either. I would expect that the engine in the general term,
that's what I thought
was more suited for the task.
So it's the same thing with the heliocentric model, right? It was ellipses and then calculus by Newton that actually helped making the model be expressed way more easier.
Yeah.
So it's all these things that work together for the demise of what was before. It's not just the one thing, it's a system of things.
Yeah, but I also like the sentiment that you just painted, is that people found like a new thing, in this case, steam engines, for example.
Yeah.
And just fell in love with the potential of it, you know? So people just started applying it, and we're going somewhere actually. Started applying it to all kinds of things in life, useful or no, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Which propelled the technology itself as well. So you basically get an entire community being
that's it.
enthralled with the idea of its progression.
Yeah.
And if I'm understanding it right, you say, well, we're past peak technology. In this case, the technology that we might have, but most people don't even know.
Yeah. The what's its water. Yeah, I mean, this is peak what we started in the 1960s with computers.
Yeah, let's say digital.
Yeah, let's call it
be
digital,
very general,
or even peak mainframe or something, because in the end we're still eking that metaphor out.
Well, I perhaps can make it a little bit more precise than peak digital. This is something I've been talking about. So I've been having a lot of introduction conversations with people at my new job, which is very nice. And I most of the time start talking about digital because it's apparently very much a topic in many organizations. And it seemed to me that digital, because of its databases and technology and devices that we have developed have always been a little bit limited to one person, right? You have a watch, I have a watch.
Yeah.
It seems very silly that we both have watches because what it needs to do is tell time. Well, of course, these are way more smart.
Yeah.
But when we are together, we are a team, right? So we basically just need one source of information, be it a mobile phone or a tablet or whatever. And it seems like the structures of technology from the digital age somewhere in the 80s, with databases and stuff like that, we are captured as individuals rather than, let's say, families or people doing a podcast or neighborhoods or cities even or societies. And this is a big handicap. And I foresee that the next step would be, and perhaps also a little bit of, let me rewind a little bit. I think it caused a lot of the behaviors that we see right now in society. Yeah. People being very lonesome with their own glass surface, for example, and people feeling anxiety about that.
Yeah.
And I think that might be haphazardly being caused by the nature of how we developed the technologies and didn't think about, hey, we might want to create technology that embodies other social structures.
Yeah. Yeah, in the end, it's a culture thing, right? So the peak is not in technology itself, but in the culture.
Yes.
Or in the paradigm.
Definitely.
And it's the... But also, I mean, that was before my holiday, I believe. Marques Brownlee did a review of the humane pin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which was this...
You kind of wanted one, right?
No, that was the Rabbit.
Oh, that was a Rabbit, yeah.
But that was before I actually discovered that the founder of Rabbit, before he founded Rabbit, he ran a crypto fund.
Ah, he's a crypto bro.
Yes. And then I thought, okay, well, and I also thought that the processor in the R1 is probably the cheapest and lowest powered processor you can actually get nowadays. But the humane pin, which is built by this company with ex-Apple people, so they're design gods, right, in their own words.
Sure.
Right, because if you...
Did they actually say that?
Well, close to that one.
Okay.
It's the very strong opinions why Apple cannot innovate anymore, and they know how to, and that kind of stuff.
Oh. So it's basically like a Apple Watch on your lapel,
but without a screen.
Without a screen, but with a camera.
It has a camera, and it also has a projector, so it can project on your hand.
Ooh.
Which would be great, Pete, if it worked. Because the whole gist of the review was, and I quote, "This is the worst review I ever did." And not that the review was worse, but the product was literally didn't work. Start overheating right away, and it's obviously that they released a product that they had to know that wasn't finished or even feasible. And the same with the R1. But what I found really telling when Marques did the humane pin review or takedown, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
Somebody commented to him and said, "What you're doing is indecent. You have 30 million followers and you are now bankrupting this company." And that's so weird.
Yeah.
They make a shitty product with all the pruha.
And he pointed it out. He basically did this.
He literally said, "Hey, the emperor is naked."
Yeah.
And somebody said, "You have 30 million followers. You cannot tell them that."
Yeah, you can't do this to the emperor.
And that's also an expression of culture, right? I mean, and it's the same with the R1. That what it promised and what it actually delivered is so out of whack.
Yeah.
This is not a version 1.
Yeah.
This is just grifting, right? I mean, the fact that a Tesla still doesn't do full automatic driving.
Sure.
That's fine. It's still a nice car.
Yeah.
The fact that the very first iPhone didn't have copy and paste, still a reasonably good phone with a very good mobile browser back then. Written by one man, by the way. We should do an episode but this is so out of whack. And that somebody actually wants to defend it. Yesterday, ex-colleague of mine on LinkedIn, at Alkema, he made a comment about the open GPT-4o released. You also made a video about that one.
Yeah, right? I kind of wanted to know what it was about.
Yeah,
actually, it was kind of nice.
Yeah,
but not. How do you call it? Not amazing.
No, but he made a comment. Nice model, amazing model. But why are those videos so cringe?
Oh yeah,
and it's true. There's this guy in this open AI hoodie, and the voice they're using, the lady voice. I mean, that's a women's voice designed by 14-year-old frat boys. I'm sorry.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, and so he made that comment.
But could you describe it? Because to me it was like a warm female voice, a little bit hoarse, and she kind of talks like everything would be a joke. And she was kind of like the pal of somebody.
I mean, it's literally like one of those stereotypes in those 1980s teenage movies, right? You have the cheerleader and the nerd it's so overly stereo. I mean, I literally don't know any woman that talks like this. Also the flirty nuances.
Yeah, that was
there.
it.
And who made? I mean, so he put it out there that it's cringe, and then somebody responded who has in his job title founder. So founder is a job title. Right? I'm not going to make a joke about that one. But he said, no, you don't get it. They worked. It's cringe because they worked really hard on it because this is really important. These videos. It's cringe because it's really important, and that's why they worked hard. It's cringe because they put time and effort in it. That's the reason. It's bad because it's what? I literally.
It's kind of like dissonance happening over there.
That's it, and you see that everywhere. I mean, it's the recently. What was it? The Met Gala? In the US.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Mosseri, I hope I get his name right. That's the head of Instagram at Meta. He was on the red carpet taking pictures. I mean, how Marcel Duchamp can life get? Right? This is literally life imitating art or art imitating life. I mean, what? It's so cringe.
It's a performative, right?
It's so performative. Yeah. And if you benchmark, if you compare him to Kevin Nystrom, the original co-founder of Instagram, how he talks, how he behaves, what he did afterwards, Artifact, which I really love the way it was described and presented. Didn't work out as a business model. It happened. But it's such a difference. And what culture brings this forth? What culture emphasizes, promotes, rewards this kind of behavior? What culture promotes, emphasizes, rewards sitting in your open AI hoodie, talking to the movie Weird Science, because we keep mentioning movies.
Weird Science.
Where two teenage guys actually cook up their ideal woman. That's this. That's literally this. And I mean, it's so
but Weird Science is actually good.
That's a good because she's actually a bit more than they bargained for.
She is an independent person.
Very. It's a brilliant movie. But it's that kind of, and this is the Sharknado version of Weird Science, right? It's really bad. And what is that, Peet?
Yeah, it's a milieu. It is a milieu.
Oh, the milieu. That's a great word.
I'm positive of that. And it's a milieu I also see on TikTok and on I guess Instagram as well. Yeah, people doing like little plays, So they're called stories, but they're kind of like little plays. Yeah, they play something out and say, "What are you doing?" And so, "Oh my God, It's all patterns that have been exaggerated and trying to appeal to a very numb audience, it seems like. Yeah. So all the nuances fall away and it needs to be very expressed, right? And you also see this with, it's very funny because you also see this with how people talk. And so English is not my first language. So I try to pronounce all the things as much as I can, so I can improve a little bit, I guess. And this is also the case for all the TikTokers and the YouTubers. They seem to have like a new way to how to talk, and they introduce new letters and parts of words that they basically exaggerate, and it is unreal, literally.
Yeah, unreal.
It is,
that's a nice
and
one.
you do get. I totally get like either the feeling of cringe, but most of the time, like, okay, this needs to be funny, but it really doesn't, So it follows the patterns of a joke. So you kind of like instinctively would say, at a certain moment, I should laugh, and at the moment you might do that without meaning it. So it wasn't funny, but because it follows the patterns, you say, ha ha ha. Oh, that's...
Yeah, you actually participate
that
in the pattern because you're not supposed to laugh.
Because we know the patterns, right? We follow the patterns as an observer.
Awesome. Yeah.
And similarly, the TikTokers that needs to... they have a horrible life because they need to make 5 stories each day.
Yeah.
So people will fall ahead. So they make the pattern that was successful before, and they basically exaggerate even more.
Yeah.
It's like putting the contrast on a picture so high that you basically just see blobs.
Yeah, there was a great article a couple of months ago about large language models, and the person actually likened them to blurry JPEGs.
Yeah,
and this actually applies to this culture as well. It's a blurry JPEG. It's sort of there, but it's not. It's not vivid. It's not a thing. It's a blurry representation of something that went before.
Yeah, or perhaps the other side, like over.
Sure.
To me, it's like get a picture and put in line detection and contrast and put it all to max, saturation, put it all to max.
Oh yeah, oversaturated.
But
I think that's a great word. I mean, this is a culture of oversaturation. It's an oversaturated culture.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, this. So what I called cringe before, it actually is oversaturated. I think that's it. It's so,
but it is following patterns and basically not delivering on the patterns to them. So they follow the joke pattern, but they're not delivering on it, and that's what's cringe. And these people demonstrating the ChatGPT for I guess that's the exclamation that you need to make when you see their results. I don't know, but they follow the pattern of a demo and being very informal.
Yeah.
But it was scripted to the gills, and it didn't make any sense at all.
No,
it was like. And this is something I've seen specifically with commercial video. So, for example, when VP or something interviews the expert of something, and they basically say, "Could you tell me about a new technology?" Well, interesting that you say that, Bob. I have this amazing new things. I can't wait on this new thing. Could you please elaborate?
It's like those shopping channels on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called QVC, I believe. That's the brand.
Yeah, the shopping network or whatever kind of thing.
I mean, because I actually used to watch them explicitly for the oversaturated pattern. You can literally wait until there is more.
Yeah. And how much do you say? But wait. If you order now,
that's it. Yeah,
you get the Ginchu knives or whatever they're called.
And I mean, this will not continue.
So getting back to technology, because I kind of like sense that you're disenfranchised with the technology community. That you say, well, they're going a certain direction, and I don't really feel associated with them.
That's what I thought for a long time, but I think it's a bit more clinical than that. I actually see the clippers coming by, and I said that's awesome. And I see the Suez Canal being opened, and I see that clippers are really hard to maneuver in the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there is this stubby little top that's chuffing away, and it actually does in the end it better.
Yeah.
So the disenfranchisement is with the paradigm. For lack of better word, and I don't know what the paradigm is called, but I can literally see this is going to end.
Yeah, exactly.
It must end.
So the age of the clippers is going to end.
It's going to end. Yeah. I can literally see the end of the empire, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the and of course, then the question is, what's next?
Yeah, Yeah, I like to know as well. I think about that. A couple of most of the times, and I used to be also a very technical person, or a person that's associated with a lot of tech, like gadgets and also programming and stuff like that. And to me, at a certain point, it was like, well, technology, I know it's going to be fine.
Yeah,
it's just like I'm not talking about breathing all day, and just like I'm not talking about bricks holding us up and concrete holding us up in the air, apparently, magically. We won't be talking about technology because it's just not a thing. It's a very foundational, perhaps, but it's not a. And it's but this means, sorry to cut myself off. This means that technology needs to be really integrated with all the other foundational stuffs in our lives.
Yeah.
And that step hasn't happened yet. So we still kind of like worship technology, right? We're still amazed about the progression that we make. And it's all very much connected to a thing. And the one thing that I find is, so there's a divide between technology and people, and not in the definite in the specific sense of all technology, because that's very broad. A hammer is also technology, but there's a divide of modern technology, let's say digital technology, and people, and that is that. Let's say we get the iPhone, we take it out of the box. Basically, from that point on, we need to caress it and protect it, because it's well, I wouldn't say holy object, but it's definitely something that needs to not change. It's built to never change. And when we like put a little scratch on the screen, or have a little patina on the sides, or make it dirty, for example, that's not how it should be. And all the things, the manuals and all the behaviors that we learned around it are about that. Technology should be pristine and should never change, which basically means that people are the soft part in this equation, right? We need to interact with technology.
Yeah.
So as flawed as a certain technology might be, we are the part that molds around and behaves to the technology itself.
Absolutely. It's a bit like Charlie Chaplin in modern times, right?
Yeah.
Where Charlie is trying to fit into the machine, literally.
Yeah. And so, to me, the next iteration or the next phase might be where we are equal. Right, where technology is also meant to be integrated with our lives, get a patina, so we can mold it to our own use and our own patterns, and being way more amenable to the context rather than for us to change, because that can be very caustic to society, but also to an individual person.
Yeah.
Right? Our pants are built to hold iPhones, which is really, really weird.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice one. Yeah. We shape the tool and the tool shapes us. It's the
but and also we kind of decided that it's finished, either based on the half fabrications that we built into it. Screens were flat and rectangular, because pixels are that, and the services supporting that are also that. Yeah. And that's why we have planks, little glass planks in our pockets.
Yeah.
But that's not a natural way to perceive.
Yeah, and I think
to run around and
and that's the operative word, natural, right? Because
exactly.
we are not machines, and and we have industrialized for a very, 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 very brief femtosecond of our evolution.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's and certainly with digital, the scale and the speed and the the scale and the speed of digital technology just shows our evolutionary constraints.
Yeah.
I'm almost inclined to say.
Yeah, definitely. Or let's say, I'm not sure if it's evolutionary, but
physically,
it's not generation by generation.
No,
I guess.
No, well, I mean, I always saw culture as a way of speedrunning evolution, right? I mean, and cultural transmission. And
Are we going to talk about the base layering? Watch the base layering episode. It's really nice.
Yeah. But it's that's a good one.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say something really profound. Well,
I'm sorry.
Oh well, it's fine. But I think but that's it. It's the oh God, I had something really nice phrase. Okay, well it's good. But it's you can really see it jars with us as this whole cultural transmission thing that really got us to where we are now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's us as a species that shaped the earth.
Yeah.
For worse.
We were the shapers.
But it's not the octopus, for instance.
No.
And not because they are just less intelligent or less capable. If you see videos on TikTok of an octopus actually freeing itself from a cage and escaping.
Yeah.
Ooh, respect, buddy. But still, it's us that's shaping this planet as tool makers. And I think that speed running is now biting us in the ass. I think we overclocked the cultural transmission thing, and we need to maybe pause or rewind or rewild even.
That's it. That's a really nice term. Rewild.
Rewilding. It's a great.
Let's rewild the people. Yeah,
it's actually a thing from forestry.
I know,
So and I think that
I think it was a step in British gardening. So there was this. So in the past, this was in the times of the kings in France.
Yeah,
they have very. If you go to Versailles, for example, you have very meticulously maintained gardens.
Yeah.
And at a certain moment in England, there was this guy, which is basically a man that can do anything. So he basically started as a gardener and ended up as an architect. Very nice. Yeah. I think he made the glass palace, but don't pin me down on it. And but in those times there was also in England the meticulous gardens, but they basically said no, it needs to look like nature. I think this was in times of the Romantic era.
Yes, probably.
Right?
Likely, yes.
So we fell in love with the patterns in nature, and we wanted everything to look like that, including our gardens.
Yeah.
And they basically artificially made rewilding basically our gardens. Intentionally, which is really interesting. So is this an artifact of people doing this, or is this nature going its way?
I mean, because I know the phrase from forestry in Germany, I think in the 18th or 19th century. Industrialization started to happen. So actually forests were being industrialized, right? So nice, even spaced trees, row after row after row, same height, because it's really much more efficient.
Optimal forestry.
And of course, we already know what happened is that the second generation of those trees were actually smaller and less healthy. With a bit of a storm, they actually snapped. And what they had to do is actually let nature in again and have the variety so that it actually looks like a forest instead of a warehouse.
Yeah.
And that's the rewilding. And I think we need to rewild the internet. It's exactly the same. We're now living in an internet with all these nice trees, same height, perfectly straight roads. And we know in the second or third generation, and it keeps snapping.
But perhaps we should also rewild technology, it's not rewild. It's like let's wild technology. Let's give it the attributes or the properties of shaping itself to its use.
And shaping and being shaped by its users, and I emphasize users in air quotes,
Ooh,
right? It's
we're going there.
We're going there. I mean, because we talked about the malleability of software, right? I mean, software is inherently hackable, it's inherently shapeable, it's inherently composable.
With software, definitely, yes. Hardware, a little bit less, I guess.
Bit less, but hardware as a container for thing. I mean, what was it again? Oh, well, I mean, somebody was using an Atari game computer for actually modern day work. And it's the same hardware.
Oh, that's nice.
But it's even hardware is in that sense malleable with software, right? You can.
Oh, definitely, so you can use it for different things.
Yeah, but I think that's. I mean, another phrase. This is really a way too philosophical episode. But
no, it's fine. But
I also read a lot of Max Weber in my holiday, and he has a great phrase about disenchantment and Zauberung.
Oh,
yeah, German is a fantastic language. It's
so could you explain a little bit?
Yeah, so it's so that in ongoing industrialization and ongoing rationalization, we lost the magic in things. Everything had to be understood. Understandable and cause and effect. It's not only understood but even predictable, right? So you take the magic out of things. And of course, culturally, as a species, we always lived with magic. If you allow me the comparison, I think religion is magic.
Sure,
And Bezauberung, enchantment, being enchanted by something. Instead of taking the enchantment out of things, right? And again, I so didn't want to talk about generative AI.
Come on.
But if you see what the damn thing does or doesn't do, it's that's enchantment. It's it's silly. Sometimes it's stupid. I saw an experiment where somebody with various LLMs started with an empty prompt, just nothing. Let's see what it answers with. And you see that different LLMs answer in different ways. It actually gives you a hint about how they were being trained and being trained with. Because it actually reveals an empty prompt, what they think is the most plausible thing ever to actually come up with. And some LLMs come with question and answer responses, some with a coding example. And it's really, I mean, this is, and I'm sitting there. Exactly. I'm sitting there in my little bench in my garden, clouds still coming by, and I'm reading that article, and I see his experiment, and I think, that's funky. That's weird. That's magic. And
it's magic because we don't understand it, right? But it might still be.
Cherish the fact that we don't understand it. At least in my case, I love that.
I really love, I'm not sure, so there's this very nice, you know his name probably, scientist, I think we talked about him before, scientist also worked on the atomic bomb, and...
Are you already forgetting his name again?
He went to space, sorry. Okay, it doesn't really matter. He basically, so he had a talk with a normal person, and this normal person, they were watching the sunset, and the normal person basically said, "I think I find this more beautiful than you do." He said to the scientist, and this scientist said, "Well, I beg to differ, because I think I not only appreciate the aesthetics of this beautiful sunset, but I also understand how it came to be. So all the explosions in the sun happening, the distortions from our atmosphere, making everything orange and yellows. And because I understand that, it's even more beautiful, or I can appreciate the beauty in more ways. And I really like that. And I think similar to AI, at a certain moment, AI might be able to explain itself, and that we understand how things came to be. And I'm not sure. I don't really think it will make AI or similar technologies mundane and not wonderful. Just like we wonder about all the things of children. Right? If you see the growth of a child, it is magical.
Yeah. And at the same time, we have a whole system of institutions in play to actually get that out of them.
Yeah. We don't want natural behaviors.
Yeah. And the same thing with AI. I mean, we talk. I certainly talked about this endlessly now at this point in our podcast series, right? Mm-hmm. We keep using AI for being efficient and correct and accurate.
Yeah.
Just I mean, it has,
we have the wrong expectations of AI.
That's it.
Yeah, it needs to find its own way somehow.
Yeah. Another one. Can I do this one? Another anecdote?
Yeah, sure.
So recently I presented at a university about what I do for my daytime job. Yes, I have a daytime job.
What?
Yeah. It's about ecosystem innovation, right? That you actually use ecosystems for the innovation capabilities, because that's what ecosystems does. So it's a bunch of academics and a bunch of practitioners, separate species.
Yep.
I will be one of that one. So I presented what I've been doing, and at least 5-6 people, academics, afterwards came to me and they said, "It's fantastic how you're being yourself when you present."
Huh?
As opposed to being who? What?
So they weren't used to a bubbly person or a passionate person?
Somebody said, "Oh, you're both slick and raw." I love that. Okay, I take that one. But literally, that you just present the way you are.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Really?
So they're kind of used to a lot of very, let's say, compared to you, boring people or people formulaic people? People
that play a role when presenting, that they role play a present. I mean, honest, I was standing there. I mean, and I think it was meant as a compliment.
Yeah.
I was just standing in totally confusion. How can you not present the way you are?
Yeah.
How can you not present about a topic you actually not only are passionate about, but are obsessed, but in moderation, and want to share and want to discuss and want to know what you're missing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how did we get into a spot where academics, right? I mean, let's call it, let's even expand it, scientists,
sure,
right? I mean, they got into a place when they share something with their peers or practitioners, God forbid, and they're not themselves. They're apparently something else, and playing a role and adhering to convention. And I guess convention is kind of needed, because I had to stick to 10 minutes, for instance. That's also a convention. I'm never going to do, by the way, a presentation in 10 minutes. Not going to happen. Because I'm the kind of guy that needs 10 minutes to introduce the presentation.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, I'm Ron. 10 minutes.
It's the, it's
50 minutes later.
50 minutes. But I mean, how? I mean, all this putting things in a mold, right? All these trees in a nice line, same size, same height, for kilometers on and on and on. And this is the same thing.
I think so. For scientists, to me, it seems like a very rigid pattern to stick to the facts. And the facts also brings a milieu, if you will.
Yeah, there it is again.
Being perceived as somebody that sticks to the facts, right?
Yeah.
And so jokes in a sequence of facts isn't something that is expected.
Yeah, I know.
Or being passionate even.
Yeah.
Because that adds flavor. It implies bias.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
And I can imagine why it is, but it's surely not to me. When you broadcast a message and you want people to be amenable to the thing that you say, you do need to appeal to people's passion and to their intrinsic motivation.
And one of the reasons why I severely dislike the 10-minute format is because normally I use the 10 minutes to make up some rapport with the audience,
to get acquainted. Yeah,
I wanna connect you. I want to pull you in. I wanna see what the water is. Right? And it's but I mean, Richard P. Feynman.
Thank you very much.
That's my presentation inspiration.
Yeah.
That's probably my icon. That's the Mount Olympus I aspire to actually be perceived the way I perceived him, the way he's presenting his Feynman diagrams. Yeah. It's beyond brilliant. It's so simple. It's so Richard. It's him. It's not a role. It's a person. I mean, the fact that we know Richard P. Feynman is not because of his academic prowess. We know Richard P. Feynman because about Richard P., the person he was.
Yeah.
And I get really worked up now. And but how did we get into this spot? How? We probably know the answer. How do we get out of the spot?
I guess being aware.
Yeah, that's that.
And I'm guessing the awareness isn't. So I get similar. Let's call it compliments on how I present things or how I get people on board or create like a workshop or whatever kind of thing. And people wonder, I want to be as creative. I think we talked about it in the primer, the 0th episode of this podcast. And so they asked me, how can I be? I couldn't be as creative as you, or how did you come about this, or whatever kind of thing. And to me, it's craft. It's just a thing that I do and hone and be better in. And to me, it's definitely, or perhaps it's a thing I unlearned. I unlearned not to be creative. Wow, that's a double negative. So I learned how to be more creative again, I guess. Because people are intrinsically that. Even technology, people creating programs, they're inherently creative because they solve problems or they see patterns where other might not.
Yeah.
And but seemingly they don't apply this to other parts of their lives, interacting with other people. Because of course you can say, I stood on the stage and this is like a very prominent location. But let's just have it in a dialogue, having an informal talk about a specific topic in your work life. That's also, you can also make that very creative. But I definitely think, let's call it self-censoring. People think there's an expectation of them talking in a certain way or presenting things in a certain way, which very much makes, basically, how do you call it? Does away with the things that they want to actually reach, right? They want the message to come across, but because they self-censored in the way they do it, they failed.
Yeah, and maybe without verifying that the self-censorship was actually warranted.
Yeah, perhaps because they're kind of nervous.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that when you start presenting for the first time, right? That you want to stick to an actual script. Actually, you probably should.
Well, at first, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right. I mean, just follow the rules, follow the script, follow the template. I mean, it's that kind of works, and gradually you find your way.
Yeah, do a TED Talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's oh God, I hate those.
TED Talks are actually, I think they might be, I'm not sure which one was first, Vine or TED Talks, but both of them are sublime examples of saturated.
Yeah, I was about to say that
media.
Yeah, it is, and it's so obvious, and you just feel it.
Yeah,
you just feel it in your body. This is oversaturated. This is a blurry JPEG. This is just a pastiche of reality.
Yeah,
a pastiche of a human is standing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
it's wonderful.
With 5 minutes to go, I'm going into hyperbole.
So it's nice. I like it. So let's touch on, because I think once in every time in our talks we also talk about something that's kind of current.
Yeah.
And so yesterday, my former colleague and friend Cyril, he posted a article about his company working on human-centered design, basically. And he quoted another article of a very groundbreaking. I think he is kind of like a designer in the broader sense of the word, right? He looks at how to optimize things and how to make things better in digital design. And the premise is we should stop using the word user for people that are using services or are in the role of a customer or are in the role of being a citizen. Basically people. So we should stop using, I should stop calling you a user.
Yeah.
And so this was a epiphany of this person.
Yeah.
He basically said, well, enough is enough. We should stop this. And Cyril's basically very smartly says, well, this is the foundation of literally the foundation of our company.
Yeah.
We think empathetic design is start seeing people as they are, rather than putting them into a structure that's artificial.
Yeah, and a structure that you impose on them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? It's because when you start with a human and you want to transform it to a user, you take away basically the humanity. You take away his or their family.
Yeah.
You take away their history. You take away most of their needs that are also very important to find out when you see behaviors in the role of a user.
Yeah.
But basically, to me, it's I become a user when I just hold this little glass plank and start touching the thing. Then that particular frame is me being a user.
Yeah, that's what you do, but not what you are.
But the arm around it, which actually motivates the behaviors on that little screen, is done away with.
Yeah.
So this is a very, very, very narrow bias, very narrow point of view of looking at people, and it's very caustic for anybody that creates a product or service.
Yeah. Like I said, I do quite a bit of work on in the realm of ecosystem innovation.
Yeah,
and have a workshop for that one, which I think is pretty effective. And the biggest hurdle in that workshop, day and a half, is actually getting people out of the mold about thinking about users, consumers, customers.
Yeah,
that's not what they are. Right? They use something, that's what they do. They consume something, that's what they do.
It's not what we are.
That's not what, and again, right? And not only seeing the various participants in what they are, but what they are together and in relationship to each other.
Yeah,
and when I say it's a pretty effective workshop, this is the only reason why it's an effective workshop. Because when people let it go, and that takes time. Yeah, it's not like a 5-minute exercise.
No, you should be able to catch yourself whenever you fall in that pattern, and it's really hard.
It's really
you can pretty much only to do it together.
And that's why it needs to be a hands-on workshop with various people. But again, but it's so ingrained. It's that word has so much gravity.
Yeah,
consumer.
And you know why? Because it's easy. It's very easy to abstract.
It's a deception.
It is. It's fooling yourself.
It's literally fooling yourself, and it's a deception, and it gives you the illusion of easyness. Now it's clear, right? We have all these messiness, all the enchantments, all the Bezauberung, right? It's right at the end of the podcast. Fantastic. and we take it away, and we put all the trees in a nice line. For 500 meters, and then 50 of those lines, and all the trees. Isn't this nice?
Those are our users. That's a user base.
That's our use,
and that's horrible.
And we also need to rewild that, and we're gonna.
And talking about rewilding, and specifically also a callback to the previous podcast. In basically getting AI to find itself means that we should start looking at it differently.
Yeah.
And this is the same case with users. Users will behave like users when the perception of them being like a very narrow definition of something.
Yeah.
And I think companies, when they start seeing people as being people rather than users, the people will also start behaving as such and getting a real relationship, like an intrinsic relationship.
That's it.
With other people. And I think that is a gold mine that hasn't been touched.
No.
Perhaps by a couple of marketing mavens, that kind of like really made that artificially, right? The people that really are fans of brands, for example, that is artificial, but it is appealing to the nature, the natural nature of people. But specifically also, when we call people users, we are doing two things. We're othering, because if you are a user, you are not me.
Yeah.
And we are not the same.
Yeah.
And I see this specifically in government.
Yeah.
In government, we call people citizens. And citizens are them.
Yeah.
They are not us.
And they're all the same.
And this is horrible, because then you are studying them.
Yeah.
And then you're forgetting that once you put off your jacket and once you're sitting in the train with all the other smelly people, you are also part of them.
Yeah.
And this is this bias that peels away the empathetic abilities of a government as a whole is horrible. And that needs to change, definitely. And I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but let's start giving people the tools to start being empathetic, I guess.
Yes, fantastic.
Or empathic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all can be Citizen Kane.
We should.
And on that note,
let's finish it off.
Let's finish it off.
Okay. So if you are very enthralled with the things that we say, or you're sleeping, welcome to your sleep. Yes. Tomorrow will be a wonderful day. You'll wake up refreshed and lovingly. But if you're still awake, go to our website, itsjustunmodel.com. You see wonderful notes made by Ron. All the show notes, links to the people that we mentioned and stuff like that. Go to the website and also find links to subscribe in your favorite podcast app. But perhaps also go and find out a modern podcast app, because they will offer even more features like transcriptions, like chaptering and stuff like that. Chaptering, like you used on for example, with YouTube. We make them all. So go to the website. It's Just a Model. Please reach out and touch us in real time. But also, if you are kind of like shy, email us at ideas@itsjustamodel.com. Am I forgetting something? Oh, and if you find this valuable, click on the thing. Just donate a little bit. The value that you just received or perceived, and just return it to us. Yeah.
Super.
Okay.
See you next time, Peet.
See you next time. Ciao, everybody.